Thokozani, I am Pobadimu and I welcome you to my channel. Thank you so much for viewing my video. Today I'll be talking about spiritual training, spiritual, mentorship, spiritual guidance, whatever you might want to call it. Because what I've encountered is that people are often facing similar problems, especially people who are told that bona banamadlozi and abadingu ukuthwasiswa, or noma idlozi, you are being told ukuthi idlozi lizokuthwasisa and all those things. So one thing that we need to understand as spiritual people is that spirituality is very practical. It needs you to understand that spirituality is practical more than theory. So now what differs is when you now step into the different fields, of career paths or faculties, if I might say. So just like how parents take us through school our whole entire lives, that is how spiritual life is. Your ancestors will take you to school and all these other things from grade 1 to grade 2 to grade 3. But now the difference becomes when you complete your matric. And now you have to move into the different faculty. That is where, or rather the sphere you're being called into. That is how now you get to develop and understand yourself better and know where you fall into spiritual things. But prior to those faculty, knowing ukuthi wena spiritually uyagupuyisangoma uyini, you need to undergo the whole process of going through school, So that is your grade 1 up to your grade 12. But now, with all these grades that you are going through, you have teachers that are with you. And in spiritual life, I will relate to that as people who are your spiritual mentors, spiritual people who are guiding you spiritually. Because as much as you might be gifted, there's some things that you might not understand or need guidance on. So it's important to identify, or rather connect yourself to someone who can facilitate that process and help you. Because not all the time when I say you being mentored or guided spiritually, does that mean training or anything of that sort. That just means because you might seem you are fasting, you're praying, you're doing all these things, but the connection or the communication between you and your ancestors is a bit stagnant or not clear, and all those other things. Not understanding that you need to do or there are things that need to be done so that your spiritual ears, your eyes, your inclination can be heightened so that you can connect better to amadlozi wako. So there's nothing to be ashamed of, because oftentimes people that are being told ukuthi idlozi lizokuthwasisa, those people go home and sleep and think, yeah, idlozi will do everything for me, but not understanding ukuthi their lives tend to become frustrated at some point because they lack some guidance and some proper mentorship, or being shown ukuthi now this is what you've been given, this is what you do to it. Because just like in school, you learn your geography, your physical sciences, all these other things, and then now you're being taken in, you have to choose a career path or rather a faculty, and you discover ukuthi some of the things you learned are now in greater modules when you get to varsity. So that's the practicality of spirituality. It needs you to be practical. Being lazy and trying to connect with your ancestors or your spiritual gift does not go in hand, because I always say yes, spirituality is practical, but it also needs you to be patient. It works on its own pace, on its own time, because they know better, how developed or how fully developed are you, because I always say before ubizwa, that before the calling, there is the gift that needs to be nurtured, that needs to be harbored, that needs to grow, So now, because everyone and people are being spiritually awakened, it's important that you find spiritual guidance so that you know how to go about things, especially when it comes to spiritual life. So being on YouTube, being on all these other platforms alone will not give you the answers you need. Spirituality is practical. The question I always ask is, what are you doing for your spiritual life? Ukphahla is not enough. Ukfuta is not enough. Uktandaza is not enough. There are so many things you need to do to align yourself. Kunezinto that you need to deprive yourself of. So now when you are in that process or undergoing that particular training or rather mentorship or guidance, you need to know that you are connecting with your higher self in amadlozi, and they require a certain level of sacrifice from you. That means depriving yourself of certain things to connect with your spiritual self, because you can't be too attached to the physical things when you want to connect to the higher self. So it's one of those things that are there so that people stop being lazy and understand ukuthi when you are dear to spirituality and give in and allow to be led, things become easier, because with your dreams and all these other things you are getting, the question is, what are you doing? You might be dreaming, you might be getting all these other things, but maybe you might be lacking some form of direction or how to undergo things. So that is where I always say spirituality is practical. What are you doing? How are you maneuvering? And you need to be patient, because this is not an overnight process. Even post, you might think people escape even with ubungoma. It's the same thing. But now spirituality is practical. If you're not putting anything into your gift or nurturing your gift or growing your gift, you're going to be stagnant. And then the next thing tomorrow, you're going to cry and when or whatever the case might be. So those are the things that need to be there, because when you spiritually awaken and all these other things, you are open to both the dark world and so now there's some levels of training or rather guidance you need for you to be able to understand, should I be going through something like this or any spiritual aspects? How do I go about it? How do I train my physical or rather spiritual eye to detect the bad from the good? So it's one of those things that are there. So one might ask, how do I get to connect with someone that is, the dreams are one of those things. You might go to someone and feel a certain level of connection, because I always say, before you connect then they bring you together. That is another thing. Or sometimes you might be led to that particular person and all those. But there's also something whereby you might dream of someone and you go there and you find what you are being shown or rather told this person can help you with, they are not speaking the same thing. It means your ancestors connected to that person, but loyo muntu loyo yena physically might be too proud, might be too ignorant, or feels they cannot help you with whatever they can, knowing those like brought you there. So in such instances, you go back to the drawing board and ask your ancestors to open your understanding and your ways, or rather get more guidance in facilitation to the process or your training or whatever the case might be, because there's always, your ancestors are your parents. You should not be scared to go back to them and say, mama, look, I can't do this because of 1, 2, 3. You sent me to this person, but I need to but I'm not feeling it. Your ancestors have a right to direct your ways and show you a different thing, because 80% of the time you find but when you get to the person, your vibes or rather your energies are not connecting. Then you go back to the drawing board, because there is no alarm clock, there is no set time you need to utwase, but une gift. So now the problem is when you have the calling. Last on the calling corner, usuguhlusha and all those other things. So then when you are in that situation or in that scenario, so that your ancestors at least open your eyes and your ears to a greater understanding, or send you somewhere else where you need, because where it feels unwelcomed, it will definitely leave. That is why some people buy or it does not like the place you were, because maybe it was connected to that person, and when you get there you find that person is being arrogant, is being proud and being all those other things and defiling idlozi labo and alikho idlozi elingana pride, lonke idlozi liyayiqhenya and all these other things. So you cannot be prejudiced because of idlozi lako and all these other things. So it's important for, as a spiritual person, you allocate or rather ask for guidance. I always say, wait on what your ancestors say. We are always too quick to make decisions for ourselves, forgetting we are called by people greater than us, but we want to make decisions for them and tell them how to guide us instead of listening to them. Be patient, uzinze ezintweni zakho zedlozi, understand and uhloniphe izinto zedlozi. Don't be 1 foot in and 1 foot out, or don't be testing idlozi. Do izinto zedlozi because you know that this is your life, this is your calling, and this is a journey you need to undertake, and you're not gambling with time or your life or anything like that. But umvuzo wa yonke into osobuyisebenzela uzobona mhlazana sowuphothulile umsebenzi wakho, when now you are independent, post your faculty training, and now you are able to stand your ground and work for idlozi, usebenzise isikhwama sakini, ubone ukuthi indlela zakho zikhambisa kanjani. Because even with people that go for consultations and you are being told ukuthi you've inherited umsamo kaya or all these other things, such people also do need some form of guidance. So it's not all the time ukuthi mawuzoya emntini uyocela guidance usuke uyothwasa or all these other things. Maybe there are certain things you need to fix, then uzenze, then you are able to maneuver around with izinto zedlozi lakho. So now the problem is with some people, because of greed, they know ukuthi they are supposed to help you in some way, but bona they take you in and umuntu akwenza ithwasa lakhe. And no, you're supposed to, there's something that I have that you need, I need to pass on to you, give to you, and so that you are able to grow as a person. Otherwise you'll always be stuck in this way. So people will come with this questions or would say Gogo, when I'm dreaming of, you know, school and all these things, what does it mean? It's just a form of, you know, confirmation from what I've told. Your whole life, it's you're learning how your life undergoes and all these other things. Because I always say our parents weren't groomed to raise spiritually gifted children, but we are becoming that generation to raise spiritually gifted children. We will know how to maneuver, because your whole life is a series of classes, of training, of facilitation from idlozi lakho. But now as you evolve as a person, you grow and get to know the person you are. So now if you have some form of understanding, that is when you find kuzoba nomuntu ozokulekelela when it comes to izinto zakho zedlozi. Some of us did not have that luck. You just being told ukuthi when we sang mahambo twasa, and they leave you to wander off, you know, aimlessly on your own, stressfully on your own. But if someone guides you and shows you good, this is the path you need to take, instead of rushing for your purse, rushing for your bank account, demanding your money just so that, you know, you are cornered to feel good. If you do not do this, you're gonna die. Because I always say some people know they are gifted but have not yet received the calling, because maybe there's spiritual stagnation, maybe there are things that need to be done for that person or their frequency to match idlozi labo, you know, connect and idlozi lako better, because the connection and communication between idlozi lako is important. If you're not dreaming and getting all the things or visions or inclination you need to get, that is a problem, because that is how we communicate nezinto zedlozi. So I hope this video was insightful and informative, so that you get to understand that it's important to get someone also, you know, even it does not matter what it takes, and always ask for guidance from your ancestors. And even with the person training or mentoring you, it does not matter. You might be 8 years old and you're being led to someone who's 10 years old. It's not about the physical person, it's about idlozi, because even mawulapo kuloyo muntu loyo usukuhlonipha idlozi lakhe, because idlozi lakhe has the wisdom to help you, the physical person, so that you can connect with your ancestors for the greater purpose, because your ancestors brought you there. They so good say your idlozi can help you, but now you need this physical body, which is that 10-year-old that can help you. So it's not a matter of disrespect. When you get to a person you feel as if, you know, you need to it's not about that. Life is very spiritual. If we tend to be open-minded and look at life as is, we'll get to understand that spirituality is beautiful, spirituality is great. So stop being frustrated and stop being lazy and stop frustrating yourself over basic things. You know by now dreaming of water what it means. You know by now dreaming of snakes. You know by now all these things. But my question is, what are you doing moving forward? Are you just dreaming because you're dreaming and enjoying the fact that you're dreaming? You know, because you might wear the beads you've been told to wear, you might buy you're being told to wear, but where is the practicality? What are you doing? If you don't know what to do about that, then I suggest you move forward and get the necessary help, rather than to feel frustrated and end up feeling ukuthi izinto zedlozi alikho or idlozi alisebenzi. So I hope this was insightful and you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned to my channel for more content. I am Thokozani.